So you've just vibe coded a WordPress plugin. It looks great. It does what it says on the tin, but then you go to submit it to the WordPress marketplace and it gets rejected. It has all kinds of vulnerabilities, all kinds of bugs. What do you do? Now this might be common knowledge for any WordPress developer who is actually a WordPress developer who has submitted several plugins to the WordPress.org directory. But I didn't know this. So if you head over to playground.wordpress.net, you get this WordPress admin backend, this WordPress installation that you can play around with. It's a playground. And if you're creating plugins, specifically if you're vibe coding plugins, even with your sub-agents that are trained experts in debugging and all of those things, finding bugs, there's still going to be some things that maybe would pass and make it a secure plugin. And I've done this. I've done many security prompts to get it to be as secure as possible and add this and make sure that things are not escaping and things like that. But there are things that you're going to miss, and particularly if you want to submit the plugin to WordPress.org, which is what I'm doing. I've not done this before. I've always created my plugins and then sold them outside of the marketplace. But if you want to start putting things out there and doing it through the official channel, then this is going to be of interest to you. Again, common knowledge for some, not going to be common to others. It wasn't common to me, so I thought it was worth sharing. So this is actually a plugin that you can download locally, so you don't need to use the WordPress.org developer background. You don't have to use the playground. You can download the plugin, install it on your local instance or your live one if you're risky, and it will work in the same way. So I've got it up here. I'm going to download it and use it on my local one because that way I can troubleshoot in real time. So any code changes I make, I'll be able to test, run the plugin, see what's still there. And I guess it's more of a more in-depth debug console because it's looking for specific things that would make the plugin fail or succeed the security check. So I've submitted, but I'm gonna have to resubmit because I've tested it and I found some issues. I've submitted a headless CMS connector and it works well. So I've got my Next.js or Vite and React front end, and I want to connect it to WordPress on the back end. I want to do that with a single plugin, no issues, and be able to do a bunch of other things, which is what I'm playing around with now. But the plugin that I am submitting allows you to do this very easily, and it gives you the instructions. So once it's installed, all you would do is copy all of this over, give it to Lovable, give it to Claude Code, whichever tool you're using, works with absolutely everyone, and it will build this into your front end. So they're connected and you're not going to have any cause issues. You're not going to have any issues. And we can do that for posts, anything with an endpoint. So posts, single post, the post is the archives, single post, categories, tags, WooCommerce, absolutely everything. So you build the front end how you want it, and then you can connect it to WordPress easily on the back end. And you can do a bunch of other things once you've got that connection and you have no issues. So what I'm doing now is downloading this locally, and just to show how it works, once it's installed, you'll go to the plugin that you want to check. And you can also do this with other plugins that you have installed. Obviously, you can check for security issues. If you have WordPress sites, then you've more than likely experienced your site being hacked in some way. And typically that comes through weak plugins and themes. So vulnerabilities found in these tools. So people could and do check for vulnerabilities and then find a way to exploit that and then go and attack your site. It's a whole thing. So you want to make sure that if you're putting something out there that it is secure, and this is one way to do it. So I've checked this, and these are the errors that it's got. So checks complete, errors were found. And of course, we are vibe coders. We can take all of these warnings and hand it over to our friend Claude over in the terminal. So I'm going to get Claude up and running, and my local instance. So uploading the plugin check now, it's shown up here. So we've got the back end, everything's live. So this is the best part, to actually download the plugin and test live rather than make the edits, upload it, check, do it again. It's not the best use of your time. So we'll go to check a plugin. And I'm going to check for everything. And we're going to copy all of that. I don't know if there's a copy. I didn't check if there's a copy button, but you can also, let me copy it first. You can also click view in code. I thought it would show me exactly where in the code the issues were, but I guess not. Nonetheless, we've got that, that's working. Now, before I hand these issues over to Claude to fix, I'm first gonna add another step, and that's getting it to create an agent. Now, this is a lot of information. The aim is to create a WordPress-specific debugging expert agent and then give it the fixes, and it should help. Let's just see. So I'll go to manual configuration and we'll give it an identifier. It's just going to be WP bug fixer and enter a system prompt. That's what I've copied and pasted from Perplexity over there. When should Claude use this agent? This is important because some people have said that when they create agents, they don't get called automatically, and that's typically because you're using the first option, which is getting Claude to create the agent itself, which is not too bad. But if you don't know what to say to get it to come up or to get it to, interact with your code, then that's going to happen. And if you just generate it and never look at what it actually generated, again, that's going to happen. So I'm going to tell it that it should be used anytime I'm asking it to debug or check something. So whenever I ask to debug or check code or a feature. I think that hopefully that's enough. I'm going to give it access to all tools, and we're going to use Sonic because that's what we've got available, and we'll use green because there's a positive thing to fix things. And that's my agent. Confirm and save. And now there we've got WP bug fixer. So now that that agent is created, I'm going to copy all of this. The reason I copied it from the top is because I don't want it to pick up any other plugin or try and fix something else in the folder. Typically, if you're creating a plugin, you've got your test environment. The only plugins that you should have installed are ones that are going to interact with the plugin that you've created. So for example, WooCommerce needs to stay on because it's going to be interacting with the plugin when I add endpoints for products. So if you've built your site and it's an e-commerce site, you've built a custom front end and you want to be able to show those WooCommerce products that you add in WordPress on the front end, you're going to need to add that new custom endpoint. And it helps if it's got the most up-to-date version of that plugin because it can see the code. So that's one of the benefits, and the only time that you should have other plugins installed, because additional plugins could interfere with what you're trying to do. The code could clash and then you're trying to figure things out. So anytime you're vibe coding a plugin, make sure it's in an isolated environment to avoid those kinds of issues. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to get other issues. You're going to have to debug and it could get more confusing. So keep it simple unless your plugin needs to interact with another tool and some other code. So what I'm going to do in this case, because I do still have a couple other things installed, but we're just going to run through this quickly. So I've selected the entire thing. You've got the other plugins here that you could go through. I'm not going to go and check what those plugins what their security is like. Hopefully WooCommerce and things like that are keeping the highest of highest standards, but I'm going to copy all of this here, and I've copied the name just so it knows there's no confusion. And first and foremost, I'm going to see if I tell it to debug and fix, if it's going to automatically bring up my bug fixer agent now that I've created it. So here are the results from my recent WordPress plugin check. Please debug and fix these issues. And we're also going to see if Claude does. So paste. Let's see if it brings up the agent. Oh, there we go. I will use the bug fixer agent to debug and fix these WordPress plugin issues. Let me create a to-do list and track the fixes needed. so there we go. It's called the agent. There's an error reading the file. Let's see why. And now it's fixing. Let's see. I'm going to press yes, allow to all these edits. And then what we're going to do is check it again and see what remains. So it would be easier if they said how many errors there are. Let's just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've just counted them. There are 32 errors. So after it tells me it's fixed everything, we're going to check it again and see if any errors remain, and if so, how many. And then we're just going to copy and paste and do exactly the same thing. Okay, here's what it says. And just a side note, I'm doing this for recording purposes, copying the entire thing. If you have a list of this, I think it was 32 bugs on here. If you have a list and you have hundreds, do not just go in and copy everything in unless you want to break a bunch of functionality. But if you just want to test it out and see how it does with the copy and paste the entire thing, like I'm doing now, just make sure you have backups. With anything you're doing, just make sure you have backups. I cannot and will not be held responsible if you destroy your code. So it says all WordPress plugin issues have been successfully debugged and fixed. And the agent says what it's fixed and says the warnings it's fixed. And the plugin now follows WordPress security best practices. So I'm going to refresh and we're going to do it again. And there are errors again, but less errors. So that's fine. We're just going to run those back through. And these errors could be ones that it created when I gave it the first time. They could be the same ones that are persistent. It's more than likely that it's created new errors while it was fixing it, which is why you don't just want to give it something blindly. It could destroy another part of the functionality, but we're trusting the process here and we're going to just check it ourselves on the back end. I have backups. It says, I see there are still some remaining issues. Let me fix these additional WordPress security performance problems. But this is ideally what you would do. Again, if you didn't know that this was something you could do, hopefully this has been useful because you have something to work to or work with. Another thing is, you should head over to the guidelines page and feed this documentation. Either download it as an MD. There's a GitHub repository that does this. I've forgotten what it is, but it turns all the documentation into like a readable format for the tool to just have as documentation. But you can just give it the URL and it will do the same thing. So before production, if you've not started and you want to make sure that you're building to the WordPress standard and not just letting the LLM do its own thing, give it the documentation, and then when you're going through submission, tell it first that I'm about to submit this plugin and I want to make sure that it gets picked up and I don't violate anything, things like that. Just tell it those things. Give it the guidelines again. There's a specific area they tell you to check out, and I think it is this page that I'm on now, Detailed Plugin Guidelines. Give it that, make sure it follows them, double check in the plugin check tool, and then you actually have something to work from. Otherwise you're just kind of shooting in the dark. So now we're down to one error. Lovely. We're going to give it that one back. So once I've worked out that last kink, it should be good to go. Can resubmit it and all should be right as rain. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and this thing is still there. But I'll see you on the next one. Bye.